And now, Jabroni Studios, in association with Big Herm Productions, is proud to present to you, recording from an undisclosed location in Oakdale, Connecticut. It's Chris Burns. It's Chris Lynch. This is Dysfunction Junction.
Fat and happy off of Fat Boy Christmas. I ate half my body weight in God's cranberry sauce with the lines you can cut to make sure portion control is perfect. And we got some bad news. I'm going to cover some bad news quickly before we start. But welcome back, everybody. It's time. Pull your seat back. Welcome to Dysfunction Junction.
Fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah.
All right. My name is Chris Burns. With me, as always, the co-host with the utmost. And I'm guessing you did a little beard treatment because it doesn't look as flea-ridden as usual. His name?
Yeah. Mr. Flea himself, Chris Lynch.
Flea is a different person. He plays bass for the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
You don't know. I could be him.
That's true. I don't know. I've never seen you naked with a sock on your junk either, so we'll leave it there.
Arrange for that. That would get good ratings. I'm just saying we could do that.
Change that.
If you guys want to Venmo us,
you've got an opinion on that.
I'm telling you.
Say something.
If you guys out there watching this either live with us or after the fact want to Venmo us $1,000, we will all do the show naked with a sock on our junk.
Dude, you'll get the full Monty.
That's right. Speaking of Monty, he's the producer extraordinaire, the man with no hair. He is Big Herm Michael P.S. Herman.
What is up?
Right there.
I don't know that she's going to see this tonight. She's usually watches our show after the fact. I do want to send some condolences to a friend of mine that I've known since first grade. Her name is Brooke. I'm not going to say her last name. I don't need close. I don't need people looking her up and bothering her. But her husband passed away on the night of Thanksgiving. And
oh no, bro.
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, we've all experienced our fair share of loss in the last couple years, but the night of Thanksgiving. What are you laughing at? I don't know.
Because my dark humor, and I'm laughing and I'm scolding myself because it's too soon. That's why.
It's not. He's not a celebrity. We don't make those jokes about.
No, I know that. That's why. But you know where my sense of humor is.
I know.
Extreme condolences. Absolutely. This is how we are. This is how I am. It is no disrespect. I handle tragedy with jokes.
If she comes back within the week and says, "I want to hear the joke,"
I'm not saying the jokes. But I had a couple run through my head.
Oh my God.
Horrible fucking thing, but my first reaction is to work with humor. My therapist said that I use humor to cover my pain, and I said, "But so what I'm hearing is you think I'm fucking hilarious." He said no. So honestly,
right.
my condolences straight up, absolutely.
Yeah.
You must go to the same therapist.
Another night, I'll drop the joke.
All right. When she gives us the okay, go ahead. You can drop the joke. But I mean, we all have, loss, and unfortunately for this one, now this holiday is going to be just attached with this tragedy. So, Brooke, if you're out there, our deepest condolences to you. Sorry about David, and make sure your kids, her kids are grown, so. They'll be okay, but I just wanted to make mention of that. And the other bad news, unless you're dumber in a box of shit and thought it wasn't going to happen, as Lynch is alluding to with his screen name, Hunter Biden was pardoned by his father, President Biden, on December 1st. And even though, now here's what I'm hearing. I'm not saying this. This is what I'm hearing. This is going to tarnish his legacy as president. Now, on July 28th, he did come out. He looked down. Hold on. Breathe. He looked down the barrel of the camera, and he says, "I'm not going to pardon my son. I believe in the rule of law. I believe that, if he's going to court, I'm not going to interfere." And no sooner did those words leave his mouth, and I think, Lynch, it was you and me that were talking. I said, this will happen at the last minute. It's gonna take place in January. We're a month early.
Absolutely.
Anybody... Go ahead.
I think the thing is that you look at, and everybody, he's a liar. No, guys, there's a lot of things and decisions I made and things that were in the works and planned, and 6 months later, that's not how they're going to go down now. Now, you can say that's a hypocrite. You could say I'm a liar. You could say it's going to tarnish my reputation. But what I can say is, bitch, I'm a human being, and the information and what I have in data and history I've gone through between then and now has influenced my motherfucking decision. And to be honest, Joe was every right, and I'm sure Joe meant what he said when he said what he said back then.
Mm-hmm.
Difference is, you know what? Y'all motherfuckers basically threw me aside because I couldn't win, and then we didn't win. It was all my fault. It was all my fault that we weren't getting where we were supposed to go, even though we didn't have to go nowhere. You know what? I wasn't going to pardon my son, and he was going to deal with whatever it was while I was president, and he was going to do his shit. But you know what? That dog didn't get off the motherfucking porch. So I'm doing what I need to take care of my family, and we out this bitch.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
that's
I knew
where Joe is at this one. Yo, he's out, we all out. Fuck it, we out.
he makes and that goes to your point. He makes the announcement just weeks after he was shivved in the back by Pelosi and Harris to move out of the way in favor of Harris. And he makes that announcement on the 28th. The next day on the 29th, Karen Jean-Pierre is just basically saying he's not going to do it. He's not going to do it. He's not going to do it. I blame him less than I blame Karen Jean-Pierre. Karen Jean-Pierre is just there to lie for his sake. But I knew he was going to.
That's really all the press, the press secretary's job is just
right.
Spin doctor.
I said that day that he made that announcement, he's going to pardon him. And he has every right to. You're the president of the United States. You have that you wield that kind of power.
It's
the only thing I have a problem with.
The veto is the only fucking thing you got with that job, bro.
The only thing I have an issue with it's retro back to August of 2014, which coincidentally is when he started with the Burisma company. So any crime he may have committed, and I'm saying that out loud, he may have committed. I have no knowledge of anything he did. We have the news reports. We have everything that goes with it. God, I like your your library, Lynch. That's really nice.
Thank you.
I have no knowledge of what he may or may not have done. I don't care. I knew this was going to happen, and I had left-leaners and right-leaners both going nuts about this. And if you have two brain cells to rub together, like the three of us, you knew this was going to happen.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, Lynch, go for it, man. You've been deceptively quiet.
So, I agree with about 99% of what Herm said about me. Because we were having this discussion at work today. My coworker Andy said, "Wouldn't you be bitter?" He was cast aside because it's all his fault, like you said, Herm. It's all his fault that we're not getting any traction.
Not necessarily bitter. That's the way it works. Look, politics is business. It makes strange bedfellows.
And I agree with you.
But as an old man, fuck this. We out. I'm done.
6 months ago, my mind was made up that I wasn't. Well, guess what, motherfuckers? It changed. Now, people saying tarnish his reputation. His whole presidency was a lame duck presidency. I'm sorry. The whole 4 years. He didn't do a lot of damage, but he didn't do a lot of good either. The whole border crisis thing in the last 2 years has gotten out of fucking control. And you know what? It wasn't shocking. And its own party is tearing him a new asshole, saying how it set the justice system back 100 years and this, that, and the third. Well, you know what? Did you expect any different?
You know, I'd like to see Joe just come out like DX and just suck it. Just what do you want? What? I'm like, fuck, bro. What do you want me to do? I don't get. Look, you guys have pissed and moaned for 4 fucking years. I can't do anything right, so I'm doing what I do for myself and my family. Fuck you. I'm out.
Bingo. The only thing.
Fuck you. You're cool. Fuck you. I'm out.
Fuck you.
The only thing he could do on top of this, and again, I'm not mad at it. I wanted to feel the room with you guys and see if we were still on the same page, just as we were in July when he made the announcement.
as a soon-to-be 52-year-old man, not a fucking problem with it. On the record, any day of the week.
Absolutely. The only thing he could do to shove this up the Democrats' ass on his way out, they forced him out. Okay, they forced him out, not him. He didn't resign, not willingly.
No, they there was a push. He just, you know what? Fine, I'll do whatever you guys want.
The only thing he could do to stick this up their asses further is on the last day, the night before the inauguration, the president usually gives a little speech. It's on television. Hey, the last 4 years, yada, yada, yada. By the way, folks, I voted Trump. If he says that, watch half the country explode in anger.
Yeah, they shanghaied the poor bastard.
Mm-hmm.
They pretty much did. You know, they served him a couple of drinks, then they put a fucking sack over him and beat him and dragged him off.
He went out like Whitey Bulger.
Joe could have lost the same as she did.
Yep. Or he could have won the same as last time.
Right. Like that's the thing. They're going to find everything. It was his fault. He didn't buck out soon enough. It's her fault. She didn't do what she needed to.
She didn't have enough time.
Look, I got to be honest. I think they motherfuckers get 100 days, and that's it. I think they get 100 days of campaigning from election day. Count back 100 fucking days. That's what they get. You get 100 days.
I'd give them $120 just to be
check
4 months.
Just be generous.
Check other countries. Check other countries. They run informed elections. They don't require 2 years of this bullshit.
No, absolutely not. And
100 days, there's 100 days, 90 days, 120 days, all of that. There it is.
Technically, when the primary ends, you have 4 months, a little over 4 months after the two conventions and primaries end. Here's my problem with the whole thing, and I've said it to anybody who will listen. She garnered 0 primary votes. Speaking of Ms. Harris, Vice President Harris, she garnered 0 primary votes. She had the backing of some of the higher-ups who thought, Biden was a lame duck, and they forced him out. I'd have been happier if they held an emergency caucus, threw in the votes, and even if it looked like it was shady, at least you voted. At least she got some sort of...
There was some semblance of a vote that happened.
Bingo. If you want to talk about the... Yeah.
If 30% of the people said yes, fuck it, she's in.
Yes.
Pick a number,
I got a vote. At least somebody voted for you.
Right. Somebody said, all right, at least somebody backs it. Send it through. Fuck it. Send it. I get that.
Yeah.
I know the way it went down. The voters didn't really get a choice. I mean,
No.
The voters didn't really get a choice at the primary.
No, because he ran unopposed.
You know what I mean? Like that's the whole fucking problem with the Democrats. That whole thing. There was no choice. They didn't push another fucking option. They should have pushed her right from the fucking start.
Exactly.
I think if they had gone that route, and just pushed her candidacy as president from the start and she had picked a running mate, then I think she would have been a very large potential for her to do a little bit more damage during the election. I think she would have been closer. I think
very, very proud for liberals everywhere when she was like, they're gonna get my Glock, Steve.
Yeah.
I was very, very much in love with that coming out of her mouth on the platform and the party that she stood for.
It made her much more likable. Much more likable.
For me, it did in that aspect. It was like, somebody breaks into the house. I have a gun. I don't know what else do you want me to tell you.
Mm-hmm.
Draw the own conclusion. If we could have gotten a longer bit of that, I would be very surprised if the numbers weren't different. I know she does a lot of talk soup, but I think if she'd have got more of those just moments where she was a little more street,
relatable to the average,
right?
To us,
and relatable as just an everyday. Yo, they break in my house, I'm going to shoot them.
And I've been saying
that still may have a value that is liberal here or there. Could have pulled a lot if you'd have done that 10 months ago.
And I've been saying that since the rip. All I wanted to know is that all I wanted was to get to know her as a person, and she did not do that. She didn't convince people that she's somewhat coherent and somewhat intelligent and somewhat has an opinion of her own. And had I heard a couple more of those lines like that, I probably would have been more impressed. But it wasn't a very impressive go. And the fact that it was not a democratic way that she was ousted in, he was ousted and she was pushed forward. I lost a lot of confidence in the Democratic Party.
Now you know where I sat in 2012 when I walked away. I couldn't. I was watching identity politics become the norm versus the policy and procedure. The Democratic Party for in my lifetime, and even before that, was the party of the working man, and the Republicans were viewed as the elites. Now the tide has shifted, and this is what we want, how we want it, and if you don't do it, well, then you're against democracy. I heard that way too many times, and that started around the second Obama term. I'm not saying it was his fault, but the whole party went that way. I had to go.
And here's a key difference between politics that we rode the coattails on from our very young age in our life. A lot of Hollywood was very, very conservative. A lot of influential people were very conservative. Since the 1970s, CEOs, big Hollywood magnates, actors, people who influence are more and more liberal. So you got those old school guys like Charlton Heston. You take my gun out of my cold dead hands. He's gone. Guys of that ilk are gone.
Mm-hmm.
And so, with the majority of the country leaning liberal, of course, all the Hollywood's going to support the Democratic Party without any provocation or any justification. No matter what they say, they're just gonna back it, because back then it was okay to speak out against the White House. It was okay to speak out against your state representative and have an opinion. Now, if you're a Hollywood actor or a CEO of a big company and you say the wrong thing, you're fucked. You're canceled.
Yeah, pretty much. And it's because you're not towing the line. And that's why that whole cancellation business and all that goes with it. Gina Carano, who was working for Disney making those Mandalorian shows, gets fired because she made a post that was pro-Trump, and Disney fired her. That's a real story, kids.
It wasn't pro-Trump. It's that she wouldn't fall into the narrative of doing pronouns in her title.
Well, there was more. There was also tweets. There was a whole bunch of stuff, and she was very she's pro-conservative.
On the interview she did with I don't remember who it was, but she did an interview and she said, after I refused to put pronouns is what broke the camel's back.
Well, okay, broke the camel's back is different than here's the lead up. We don't want to bury the lead, but yeah.
I mean, come on. And she's on her way to winning that lawsuit.
It's going to happen. And look, to go back before we talk about the main event tonight, I knew this was going to happen with Hunter Biden. I didn't think they were going to retro it another fucking 8 to 10 years. I'm not calling it a cover up. I am not going to sit here and speculate on a damn thing.
Because they included that original crime back then in the whole set.
Was that the gun crime that went back that far?
That's the right, and that's the whole thing. They included all of it.
Okay.
So when he pardons him for everything on that list, regardless of when it happened. If it happened yesterday in 1972, anything in that indictment, it doesn't matter. So anything that. So basically anything since 14, he's out. But also, I don't see any of them. I don't see him ever going back. Like, we've all had this moment when a parent has truly saved our fucking ass.
Mm-hmm.
And we know the value of what really has been done. And I don't think you're really going to see either of those two with anything to do. I mean, where do you go? Where does where does Joe go? He builds a
He
library.
he retires. He goes to he gets his library.
What I'm
He goes
saying,
on the
he
beach of
builds a
Delaware and eats ice
library.
cream.
He takes some G-men with him to protect his ass. He lives it out, and there it is.
I just want one
There's
thing.
nowhere else to go. Biden, his son, Biden will just go back into business and won't have anything to do with fucking politics again.
Right. If there's one thing that comes out of this, and I don't know if Herm can clip this and make it into something that we can put on the page or whatever. For all the liberals and all the conservatives, everybody who's angry at this, saying that Biden abused his power and he shouldn't have done it and he made a promise, I want you to shut the fuck up. If Donald Trump commutes the sentences, not pardons, but commutes the sentences of the people who went into the Capitol building, didn't hurt anybody, didn't kill anybody, only one person died in that J6 thing. That was Ashley Babbitt.
Kill anybody, only one person died.
No, the cops killed her. They didn't. The J6ers didn't kill anybody. So if I hear one person, I'm not
going to be surprised if that happens either. Not
but
one bit.
Nor would I. But what I'm saying to you now is, if you guys cry the blues, I can point back to this and go, double standard, explain. But that is what it is. Speaking of double standards, and Lynch is way overqualified to talk about this subject, but we're all going to chime in on it. The reason we're here tonight is the brand new Jon Benet Ramsey documentary that I forget who called our attention to it. Was it Herm? On Netflix. Oh, Lynch did. Fuzzy McFuzzerson down there.
Yes.
And
Fuzzy McDuck.
We all watched it. I have questions. You have a theory. Herm has questions. We've talked about it in the chat, but Lynch, I'd really like to hear what you have to say first, because you said, I have a theory that perhaps no one has talked about over this last 28 to 30 years.
So I want to start off by saying that the way...
a lot of good shit in this.
I did.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason I want to start the way I'm starting is how that plays out, how the media played out in that entire case just goes to show exactly at what point in the last 50 years the media started twisting narratives and really saying people are guilty before they're even tried.
Mm-hmm.
The media had the mother, the father, the son convicted of this before there was even an indictment. And every time somebody came up with a new piece of evidence, I have a good.
Cunts
What were you
like
going to say, Herm?
Grace.
Yeah.
Cunts like Nancy Grace.
No. There's another cunt that I want to talk about, but that's going to be a little bit later.
Janine Pirro?
I'll get there.
Okay.
I'll get there.
So this poor family who was trying to find out who killed their daughter. All right. So 30 years ago, when I was a young lad, I didn't know what to think, but I didn't listen to the media. I read as much as I could. The early times of online and the internet and shit. So you get piecemeal shit from here and there. I didn't think I don't think the son did. Never thought the son did it, and I really didn't think the mother or father did it. I didn't realize that he had a daughter that died the year before or 2 years before in a car accident.
Mm-hmm.
I also didn't know he was previously married with adult children in their 40s. So I never thought that. I don't know if this has ever been brought to the forefront. And my theory is that it was somebody within the pageant community or adjacent to the pageant community that was local. Would go to see these kids in these pageants and fixated on Jon Benet because there was one key piece of evidence of the $118,000 request on the ransom note. Now they had said that the office of Jon Ramsey had been rifled through, and that letter was out. So this was somebody close to the family, or some geographically close. Like personally close or geographically close. Knew where they lived, had knowledge of their schedule, was stalking them, and I do believe she died by accident. And then this person freaked out, wrote the ransom note, and wrapped her in a blanket, and left her down in the basement.
Okay.
I think it was somebody in the pageant community.
Oh,
Because they never, ever talk to anybody.
It was definitely somebody. It was somebody that had to do with that dance school.
Either the dance school,
Not necessarily somebody who worked there, but it was somebody that watched or observed. That you had that other girl that was involved, that went to the same that was involved, and she went to the same dance school or whatever it was that Jon Benet went to. It was definitely somebody within that dance school pageant community and local. Absolutely.
and that theory has never been put to the test. They never spoke with any. They never asked the questions. Did you have any enemies within this community? Is there somebody who has a grudge against Jon Benet? Who do you think would cause you harm? Which leads into my second point on this entire fucking debacle, is that the Colorado State Police and the local PD completely fucked that entire investigation up by not sealing the crime scene as soon as they got there. But the cops told John, go downstairs and with your friend and look around to see if anything's out of the ordinary. What the fuck are you doing? You don't do that. It's a murder. Or right at first, it was a missing person with a ransom note. Now it turns into a murder. As soon as you get there, the first thing you do is get everybody the fuck out of the house, even the cops, and you assign people. Seal this area off. Touch nothing. Just put up tape, and we're going to document who went in the house, and then we're going to send in a crew to start taking photos and documenting every piece of that physical evidence we can find. That's the way a crime scene is treated. You don't let every Tom, Dick, and Harry who shows up from even the cops. You don't just give them unfettered access to a crime scene. You have to have a reason to be there. All right, you're the forensic technician. Yep, your name's on the list. Come on in. You're the photographer. Come on in. Your name's on the list. It's a controlled environment. The cops weren't too smart from like 1990 till about 1999. Between the O.J. Simpson case, what had the exact same problem was that the police didn't treat it as a proper crime scene, and then Jon Benet Ramsey. Now, granted, the town that they were in didn't deal a lot of homicides. It was the first and only homicide of that year. So maybe poor training or just lack of knowledge. But I find it very hard to believe that people who were in power at the time in the police department didn't have at least one nugget of common sense to tell people leave the fucking scene alone.
You're surprised by this?
No, I'm not. But
okay.
However, just a few years prior, and actually concurrently in prior, you had the whole debacle with O.J. Simpson to learn from your mistakes. That's the problem. And now, I have a quick story for you. My tattoo artist is going to college, and he's in his 40s. Former Coast Guard, used to like board boats and check shit like that. And one of his classes is communications, and he, as his subject, has picked there should be nationalized training on the base level for every cop in the United States of America. And then from there, if you can pass that training, you go into specialized fields. You want to go into homicide? Okay, now you're going to go to homicide school. You want to be a beat cop or a cruiser cop? Fine, we're going to teach you everything you need to know about there. If you don't have the root fundamentals of how it is to be a police officer, in what order to do things, you shouldn't be a cop. And a lot of that is pride, because these young kids come out of college with a two-year degree and think they're fucking Dirty Harry. the rules don't apply to them. And they also need to start teaching engagement, how you engage the community. And you know what? I really agreed with him, and I said that I think that's a really great idea. How do you do it? But yeah, it's poor police procedure all the way around. The documentary was very, very insightful to me because there's a lot of characters that I didn't like. The British journalist, I had forgotten about him. And I was like, yeah, I remember that now. I remember that interview with the Ramseys, and I remember this now. You're talking almost 30 years ago. You forget shit. The cunt is the woman who said that she was masturbating with a fucking saxophone.
I remember. Okay, I remember that bit. Yeah.
And even Megan goes, "What the fuck is she talking about?" What? Where? And that court of public opinion? Hello. If you're giving shit information, you're making a decision based on shit information. And they should have whatever show that was, fucking Geraldo Rivera. He should have been rung up on a fucking tree.
Yeah, but it's Geraldo.
But never be allowed to be a fucking journalist or any type of communications person again. I have zero fucking respect for Geraldo Rivera. He's a fucking piece of shit.
You don't have to respect him. 1A doesn't require respect. 1A doesn't require respect.
But people do. That's the problem, or people did, and that's the problem. They fall into that line of bullshit, and then they make an uninformed opinion about something they don't know anything about. And unfortunately, that's how the media goes. I say this, so it's true. And you're going to believe it.
But to Herm's point, I always argue with people about this. The First Amendment and the freedom of speech and yada, 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 and the way it's broken down. It's not the nice stuff that needs protection. It's the shitty stuff that needs protection. Yes. And I'm not saying she's right. I'm not saying she's right, wrong, or indifferent.
We're talking more about like the spreading racist hate. That wasn't
right.
I'm talking about libelous and slanderous speech.
Yellow journalism isn't illegal. All right, sensationalism isn't illegal, bro. Those shows weren't about the truth. Those shows were about ratings. You can't. 1A protection. It falls under 1A protection. There's no crime committed. Public opinion is not a crime. I know you don't like it. I don't either, but it's not a fucking crime.
Libelous and slanderous material is illegal. You can't say something to distort the truth.
It's not slander
and cause damage. Even so, if I write a paper today and publish it tomorrow that says a bunch of sorts of fucking lies and defames and decharacterizes somebody, and I'm found
depending on how you write it, sir, you can totally get away with it. That's the truth.
I've seen very
directly and write it under knowing what the law is. You can get away with a shitload. And
I've seen a lot of empty.
That show on TV falls under fucked up 1A allowances.
I've seen very empty and very far-reaching libelous and defamation lawsuits that were very questionable. And that's the problem. There's no consistent standard. I get it. Protect free speech. I get it. I appreciate the fact that people do have the right to express their opinion. But I'm not looking at it from the journalistic perspective. I'm looking at it towards the fucking character of the person. I would never. It's just me. I would never, ever, ever in a million fucking years try to make money and a profit off of somebody else's heartache and loss. They're already dealing with enough. Unless you threaten to kill my wife, I would never do anything like that. I mean, it's just, to me, it's unfathomable because I'm logical.
No, that actually would fall under something that's handled by emotional. Logic would be, fuck them, we're going to get rid. that's also a form of logic.
No,
If
it's
I
just
would have
me.
said, you know what, fuck them, I'm going to get rich. That's a form of logic. It's a set of rules you use to guide decisions. That's all logic is.
I guess I'm just not programmed that way.
No, that's all I'm saying. Emotionally, you wouldn't handle that. It's the emotional, and I'm not saying it's bad. What I'm saying is that strikes emotionally a chord with you that somebody is doing that. You would never do that simply because you would feel bad about it. Now,
Right.
the people that do it don't, but again, that's why we have everybody we have.
I'm also glad that they're trying to excuse me, to re-examine the DNA evidence. However, the state of Colorado would have to pay a lot of money to have to do the testing they want to do on that DNA. Because if they made a very good point at the end, is that they're relying on cursory DNA evidence from 30 years ago. The testing they can do now is much, much, much more advanced, and we have the benefit from the National DNA Registry. I mean, that opens it wide up. I hope that somebody can help pitch in for the cost for that, and hopefully the state of Colorado can cough up the money. Colorado runs a pretty tight ship, and they know their budget better than any other state right in the union right now. So I would hope that they could open something up to solve this. I'd like to see it. I'd like to see it solved before he dies.
You could see that happen here, but that won't happen until you hear from the taxpayers on it here. That's
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Technically, because here that would be an expenditure within the budget that they would have to start spending that would have to be approved, and basically we would have to approve it because it would take out away from our tax refund, our paper tax refunds.
Right. And or it would
right. You know what I mean? The money that does,
or it would dismantle a public service.
Right.
I totally get that. It's up to the people. But if there's somebody else, some other philanthropist with lots of money would like to say, hey, I want to know who killed Jon Benet. And kudos on Detective Stott for passing the baton to his adult children into continuing to investigate this crime. My wife kept saying during the 3 episodes that when John talked, she's like, he's not believable. And she said the same thing about Patsy. She's not believable. I said, you have to take into consideration, he's already lost a kid. She just had a basketball-sized tumor removed from her uterus, and is dealing with uterine cancer right now. They took some lumps already, and they were very smart to listen to their lawyer.
I thought they were totally believable. Like the woman who had a problem with
with him going through his mail.
No, well, yeah, well but that's just, I understand what he was doing. He was looking for some response on his daughter.
Right.
No, the woman that had the issue and couldn't comprehend him flying her body in the casket on the plane back to Atlanta.
I don't see. I didn't think that was weird.
I didn't either. I said I looked at Jen and I said, like, how is that weird? The last thing I'm doing for my daughter as her father that I am capable and qualified to do is to make sure that her body goes home to get buried.
Right.
You don't think that as that kind of a father, I can pull it fucking together to handle that task for my baby girl?
Right.
I thought that was some, I don't know, I guess our different, lady, I guess our definition of what we'll do for our kids and what needs to be done for our kids is completely different. because that just seems like father doing what the very last fucking thing on earth for her.
Right, and I agree 100% with that.
Really gone. I thought
But
it
what
was
ties-
insane that she couldn't comprehend it.
Right, but what ties together my point is that at the very end, when he's going through her like the cowboy boots she wore, the picture she colored for him, and you saw for the first time in the documentary, you saw that emotion, and you did see him almost break down. And I think the way they made that documentary was done that way on purpose. I'm sure there's stuff that they did not piece together where they both got visibly upset because they wanted to show at the very end. You always want to hit him right in the fucking heart at the end of a documentary, especially when you're talking about a little kid who's dead. Hit him in the heartstrings, and his new wife talking about him, and people talking about the other kids, saying he is the kindest person you'd ever want to meet and an incredible father. And seeing that now and hearing that 20 years ago completely takes the whole idea of the family actually having anything to do with it.
The theories that I heard in the documentary, especially in regard to what the hell was his name? The brother.
The brother.
Yeah. A 10-year-old kid at the time. He killed her because she pilfered his snack or some bullshit like that. This kid has had to carry this torment for years. His sister died, and he's a kid. Unlike if my Burke, thank you. If my brother dies, I'm going to be upset, but I'm a grown-ass adult human being. You learn to walk forward. This kid was 10 years old. Chances are it took him many, many number of years to even feel comfortable in his own skin again.
On Christmas
Correct.
Eve to Christmas morning.
Correct.
Oh!
Yeah, talk about a fucking kick in the dick.
But when people come out with these stupid theories about this young man, 10 years old, is it possible? Yes, we saw the case in England back in the 90s where the two 10-year-old boys took the 3-year-old out to the train tracks and smashed him with rocks until he was dead. Is it possible? Yes.
Probable?
In this case,
absolutely not.
Correct. And I think it's
not
just...
in this case.
No, absolutely not.
And there's no way a 10-year-old did what he did. Okay. Cleaned up and left nothing behind the way he did. There's no way he did it and his parents found out and discovered it and helped cover it up either. There's no way look, even with trace evidence and DNA and evidence gathering techniques in the early 90s, early to mid 90s, bro, there's no way the lack of evidence any of them were involved for shit.
I found it
anything other than somebody was in that fucking house and cleaned up and an accident happened and booked.
And the other theory was that she wet her bed and the mother killed her because she was wetting the bed. That watching that cop lose his dignity and validity when the lawyer was asking questions.
Yes.
I was secondhand embarrassed the entire time. I'm like, oh, and just the look on his face when they said there's not going to be an indictment.
He didn't know what to do.
He was a homicide cop. I mean, a drug cop, not a homicide cop. Yeah, he worked special unit drugs. It's a totally different job.
Yes.
That's like asking a weapons expert to be the mess hall guy. He can boil some water, but he ain't gonna cook it. He's not gonna cook good food. I also found it interesting that. What was my point? I forgot. I had a point. Somebody picked.
That's like going to the hardware store for a loaf of bread.
Exactly. Nowadays, it's possible because you go, Walmart. No, but I found out I learned a lot of interesting things that I didn't know previously. The indictment. I found it interesting that there was not going to be an indictment, and then 10 minutes later, you learn that they were found liable of basically endangering a child. But it didn't fit what the indictment was written up for.
No, that almost felt like they found something to get them on to get an indictment.
Correct.
And the people that were voting, the grand jury that's the best they could get, and if they rationalized it and worked the law the right way.
Yeah, they wouldn't get the indictment that way because it had absolutely nothing to do.
I would love to know what was the endangerment of the child. What was specifically was the you understand where I'm going?
So the first
actually considered the endangerment.
So the first part of that is allowing a child to basically cohabitate or live in a habitat with access to where that could happen. Basically, you let your kid be a kid and go to bed. That
Right.
Compounded with the other stuff, they found it abusive. That they worked the pageant angle because they set her up to be sexualized. And pedophiles and other people had access to her and they could see her. The other two guys they found.
Right. Fast forward 20 years later, and we have Honey Boo Boo in an entire series.
Yeah.
And spin-offs from.
The first two guys, I was like, they look like kid diddlers. But the third dude, with the letters and the phone calls, whoa! Now I remember that kid, guy, from back in 2006, 2007. So what happened was this guy just started sending emails to this British journalist, admitting to the crime, and that he had fallen in love with Jon Benet, and he described things that only someone within the family knew, or somebody close to the family would know, like the nickname for the grandfather or whatever it was.
Well, yeah, he tried to say that they had a relationship.
Right. Because the guy is absolutely fucking twisted mental. And the fact that he was a elementary school teacher really gave me the heebie-jeebie icks. That guy had full access to kids in an all-girls school. He had been suspected of kid diddling years prior, and it was a matter of convenience that he was from Georgia, where the Ramseys had another property. So that's probably where he would have gained access and started doing research on it, because it was closer to the internet in the internet age, and he could find out anything. But turns out it wasn't his DNA. But that guy was just fucking. He gave me the creeps the entire time, especially listening to the phone calls.
Agreed.
What about you, Chris? Was there something that stuck out to you, like, holy shit, I didn't know that, or didn't remember that?
The only things I can think of was the whatever guy that ran off to Thailand or wherever the fuck he was. I did not remember that at all.
No,
I had forgotten that. I thought both parents had died. I knew Patsy had died, but for whatever reason, I thought both John and Patsy had passed away.
No.
And no matter what happens, they're never going to get their collectively their closure, whether collectively or singularly in John's case. No, there wasn't really anything stand out to me that I guess I didn't know. There were certain things that were, alluded to in the past that, well, could this be real? Is this actually real? Is this more sensationalized bullshit? And they brought it to the forefront and they explained it away, which was good. I'm, past that, No, it was very entertaining and very concise in the way they put it together. They could have made 10 episodes of this.
Mm.
To put it into 3, and it was a constant barrage of fact, investigation, and very low bullshit scale. So I thought it was well done. Beyond that, yeah, nothing stood out to me as, a gotcha moment, if you will.
What about you, Herm?
No, there was nothing new. I thought it was exceptionally well put together. When I was watching it, like Chris just said, it's very low bullshit on the scale, on the meter for this particular documentary. There's not a lot of, I don't know. We've seen it with other stuff. Just I thought they kept it right to the story. They gave in depth information on from all sides. Everybody was
Mhm.
allowed or was included to discuss things. I thought they had a couple of whack jobs that were, you've always got it. In this case, there's several back then, just hateful people. But yeah, I thought it was a good mix. I thought it was exceptionally well put together.
Netflix is knocking it out of the
Definitely
park with
better
their
than the Slice and
documentaries.
Fight.
Yeah. Netflix documentaries, guys, if who are listeners, if you're listening now or later, just go to Netflix and chill out with a fucking marathon of documentaries. There isn't a bad one amongst the bunch.
No, not at all.
And I'm pretty picky about my documentaries because some of them a lot of them are missed for me, but Netflix is consistently the best at their documentary because they give it time. And HBO. Did you guys watch any of that, Chris?
Which one?
The Chimp Crazy?
Not yet.
Okay. If you happen to, I know, Herman, it doesn't really interest you. The Tiger King didn't interest me until, one night Megan stumbles on at 10 o'clock at night and says, "What's Tiger King?" We start watching it, and the next thing you know, it's 9 o'clock the next morning.
Watching somebody's neurosis doesn't.
But this one,
Always a fun time.
I got to deal with my own. All right.
But this one is basically they turned it into. It's almost like a dramedy in the way they do it because it's unintentionally funny a lot of times. They didn't mean to go for a laugh, but you laugh anyway. It's very entertaining, and another one where it's like, holy fucking, it's a whole new level of crazy, and I appreciate that kind of documentary.
Yeah, the more they
bury themselves,
the more they got into that story, and if you just paid attention from the periphery before Tiger King came out in 2020, I think it was
2020 during COVID.
Yeah. If you're like me and you heard the story and you're like, okay, wow, so these two got in a fight and he wanted to kill the other one and now he's rung up. We actually on the old show played his presidential commercial on the show because we were like, this fucking guy. And now the documentary comes out and I had to watch it. And I thought I'll get through an episode or two. There was like 10 of them. And then they had the return of, and then they had the Fox special. The Fox special didn't need to happen.
They milked that cow for every last drop.
The Fox special did not need to happen. Everything else, like Lynch said, well done, amazing. It took you through the timeline as if you were sitting inside that compound with Joe Exotic, with the crazy people. It was that was the first of many Netflix documentaries that I called can't miss.
Well, and that's what this Chimp Crazy is like. It's done. It's the same guy.
Okay.
It's the same director. So it's in that style, and it just here's a little thread, Chris, of crazy. Here's the ball, and by the end, you just have string in your hand. It's fucking crazy.
I look forward to it.
Yeah,
that'll be on my list this week.
Cool. But yeah,
I mean-
another hit. Another hit. I loved it. I thought it was a great documentary, and I just kind of stumbled upon it by accident. I was like, oh, I didn't know this was here.
Yep.
And I read
Like,
the synopsis. I'm like, I'm going to tell the boys.
When I and this is an older documentary, but I heard the guys on Small Town Murder talk about it. What's Wrong with Aunt Diane, which is also on HBO Max.
That is a fantastic documentary.
I am all about, and I'll ask people all the time, give me a documentary to watch.
That story, but it's a very interesting story when you.
But the best part about it was it left more unanswered questions, and it opens itself up for a follow-up if and when they ever get all the details they need.
Right, absolutely. And I think it would be a worthy follow-up.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But stuff like that, there was one on, I think it was on Netflix, where the guy claims to have the Zodiac killer on tape somewhere, and this is the Zodiac speaking, and whatever. That one's not too good, but it's a slow burn. You have to get through the mud to get to the prize.
The movie Zodiac is one of my favorite modern movies.
Isn't that with Mark Ruffalo was in that one?
Yes, it is fucking. It's one of the best movies in the last 30 years.
Yep, that one and Summer
Megan
of
watches,
Sam.
she's like, yeah, Megan watches. She's like, this is so boring. I'm like, because you don't know the story.
No, it's not.
I read so many books about the Zodiac killer and Charles Manson when I was a kid. It's true crime. I love that kind of shit.
That totally explains the fucking beard.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I modeled it after the Teddy Boy himself, Mr. Kaczynski.
But then again,
you know, longer.
Herm's the guy that really knows that, and I think you both know it. I have a favorite serial killer, but you guys claim he's not a serial killer.
No, well, I mean, like,
what's his name? Fuck.
Well, it's Kuklinski.
Kuklinski.
Yes.
But
yes.
The problem with that is that the asterisk on that is that he was a hitman.
Correct.
So while he is technically a serial killer, he wasn't doing it just because he enjoyed it. He went out and did work and then went home to his kids.
Right. He wasn't the Night Stalker. He wasn't Ted Bundy, although
right.
Ted Bundy went home to his wife and kid.
Sexual gratification thing. He was doing it for fucking money for the mob and all that. But yeah, he is definitely he would be you know, one of the a candidate for that category of type of person. Favorite serial or something like that. Mass murderer.
Cheerios.
Favorite high number murderer of all time. Any of that would work. Absolutely.
I need a haircut.
Yeah, you do.
Look at that. Look at that. I'm like a hippie.
It's like if you can find it on YouTube, and for guys like us who grew up around the southeastern Connecticut area, there was a British documentary about Michael Ross.
I was going to say,
and they
watch, go on YouTube and watch some of the Michael Ross footage.
Well, just the best one. There's some that are just like, who allowed this project to go forward? But the one, it was called The Roadside Strangler, which he never had a nickname. None of the papers gave him a nickname around here, but they gave him one because it sounds even creepier.
Right.
And that was it was well done. He was featured in in-depth interviews in this documentary, and he actually does show remorse, unlike when they, talked to Manson and he was like, I heard the record. Why don't we do it in the road? The Beatles were speaking to me, telling me to kill people. Shut the fuck up, Charles.
You guys, have I ever told you a story about my Michael Ross connection?
I don't know.
So, Michael Ross was a door-to-door insurance salesman.
Yes, he was.
When I was a little kid, he lived in Jewett City, Griswold area. I don't remember the year. I was probably 6, maybe 7 years old, because that would line up with the timeline of when he was a door-to-door salesman. Home with my mother. My dad's working second shift. It's a Saturday afternoon, about 3:00. My dad had just left for work. He was working second shift, 4 to 12. I had a dog, Mindy, half shepherd, half beagle, great dog. I just knock on the door, and I answer the door. And there's this young man, kind of well dressed, big glasses. Says, "Hello, son. Is your mom or dad home?" I just turn around and say, "Ma, it's for you." So he comes in the living room. He talks to my mother, and he's like, "Well, my husband's at work, and this is something we would have to talk about together." And he's about 10-minute conversation. He leaves. Flash forward a couple years, and my mother and father are watching the news. My mother goes, "That's the guy that came to the house." Yeah. Talked to my mother for a good 10 minutes and tried to sell whatever type of fucking peddling insurance he was doing.
How old was your mom at the time, if you had to guess?
Well, she's almost exactly 20 years older than me. So she would have been, if I was 7, she would have been 27.
Yeah, it's a little bit out of his range. I'm not saying I would have wanted your mom to be on the list,
young.
but
she looked young.
Okay.
My mom didn't start looking old till a couple of years, or like the last 5 years.
Okay.
She actually looks her age now. Up until about 60, she could pass for 15 years younger.
So crazy takes a while to age.
Well, I think it was bubbling to the surface 79, 80.
All right.
It was a slow boil.
I'm just saying the crazy kept her young.
Probably.
right,
That was the same with her mother. Crazy kept her young, and then she lived to be almost 100 years old.
God bless him.
To spite us.
Yeah. And that's exactly the reason, too.
Ba-dum-bum.
I don't know. There are a lot of cases that, you look at the Jon Benet thing, things happen all over the country that are weirder than the Jon Benet thing, that are more salacious than the Jon Benet thing. I was always curious, even to this day, why certain cases get the national notoriety and others don't. Especially when it comes to kids, because shit like this happens all over the country. Why are they picking and choosing?
So I would say of the time, because it was a young child with a kind of weird story when the story broke. And Mr. Ramsey was a business owner in the software realm.
Mm-hmm.
And she came from a little bit of money. So I would directly say that it was correlated to their pocketbook and the fact that it was a little kid. And you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. There are stories about this happening daily across the country, and it's not all of them gain national news coverage.
Mm-hmm.
I watch body cam videos and true crime videos on YouTube. Explore With Us is a great channel. They document a lot of current big time cases, and it's the body cam footage up to that point, and then it goes to interviews with suspects. It's pretty damn good.
Well, you could focus that on the adults too. Why was Jodi Arias national news, but Sarah Boone wasn't?
Again, Jodi Arias, it's a crazy fucking story, man.
So was Sarah Boone.
Maybe there was something hotter that news day.
Maybe.
You gotta understand how the media works, man. It's instantaneous.
Yeah,
now.
it starts out small and local, and then somebody puts it to the wire, and then somebody picks it up on the wire, and then the national news has to be like, we got some shit on the wire that's really gaining some shit here. And
it's gaining momentum. What's going to keep people glued and watch my news broadcast for the whole 23 minutes? It's all about ad revenue. I watch ABC News with my wife pretty much consistently at 6:30, only because Jeopardy's on at 7.
Okay, Rain Man.
It's every 3 minutes is a commercial. The news didn't used to be like that. And
no,
it's so fucking aggravating when you're watching it live. You're like, oh,
you had two commercial breaks if you were lucky.
I want your fluff piece bullshit stories at least. At least give me the headline, and then I can investigate myself later.
See, I
You know,
hate those
and that's
fucking
the
stories. I hate
that's
them.
the only reason
Clog up
I
my
watch
news.
national news. Your news is awesome. I watch your news. I watch your news more than I watch the local news here. I want to see what Colorado's doing right.
I'm telling you.
But yeah, I watch the news to get a little bit of info, be educated. But now it's just like, oh, and coming up, and in the coming up, they already told you what's going to fucking happen. You already know because it's old news. That's why the evening news at 6 or 6:30 is a fucking joke now. Honestly, I know more about what happened during the day in my local area, Groton, Norwich, New London area, in Montville. I know what happened in my town before I get fucking home at 5:30. Just by news alerts that come across my.
Oh yeah, the way of the 24-hour news cycle.
And that's when the news changed. It was the way they present the news. It's all advertisements. And if you happen to like this anchor and people are devoted to the ABC and the way they broadcast their news, I'm not a huge fan. I like the guy. I like Michael Muir. He's likable, he's a likable newscaster, and he's kind of right down the middle. He gets his own opinion in there once in a while, but when you're the talking head for the nightly news now, you don't have much room for opinion. It's the way the story is written for you.
Which for the
and you're gonna read that copy exactly as written.
If you're the top four, ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, that's exactly the way it should be. But if you watch CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, it's all opinion, and they'll sprinkle a little news in here and there.
Well, because they want to push their agenda or whatever the agenda of the day is. They go to the woke calendar and see what today on Thursday. What am I going to complain about today?
It's Butthole Visibility Day.
Yeah, I mean MSNBC. I can't watch NBC News because it's all just you know where it's coming from. It's not just people reporting facts. It's just like
which is weird because I used to love NBC News, whether it was the national programs or the locals. That was my go-to for years.
Yeah,
that's what I watch now.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Well, my local affiliate is
the local NBC affiliate.
Yeah, it's worth a watch. It's worth a watch.
And I watched the nightly just to kind of get a finger in the wind. But yeah, that's about it.
A finger in the anus.
More
Whoa, hey.
What now?
The anus. Is it that time of night already?
Anus, you glad?
Yep, Lynch had his edible, kids. That's how you know the butt talk has begun.
I'm 2 edibles deep, bro.
Oh my god, which means you're going to be a knuckle deep before you know it.
That's 2 anuses.
Yeah. That's double anus.
Double anus.
Where does this third butthole come from?
Try the new anus pounder.
Welcome to Tutor Tuesday.
Try the double anus pounder only at Lynch's.
Lynch's Burgers.
Oh my lord!
I could never name a restaurant after myself, especially with the last name Lynch. You're gonna hang people when you walk in.
Maybe. I mean, if you take it that way.
Lynch's. It's a nice place to hang out.
It's not like you're calling it lynchings. It's Lynch's.
Well, that would be funny.
Yeah,
Lynch's.
See, I wouldn't give a fuck. I would be called it Lynch's. It's Lynch's lunch.
Lynch's lunch.
Yeah. Lynch's lunch.
Yeah.
How's your breakfast at Lynch's lunch?
That's right.
We don't serve lunch, you know.
Listen to you. What the fuck is wrong with
I know.
you people?
Well, I don't know what's wrong with me.
All right.
I got a question. I got a question for you, Chris.
Sure.
If you could go back and talk to, I'm going to take Kuklinski out of it, okay? So I think you know where I'm going with this. If you could talk with one prolific murderer, and like do an interview style, or just have just to be conversational, who would it be?
There's two, and the reason I'm choosing these two is because they can speak, they're eloquent, and they're intelligent, and they never came off as they weren't Manson-y, if you will. It would either be Ted Bundy or David Berkowitz.
That's my two. That's my two.
I mean, I just watched an interview with Berkowitz, strangely enough, a couple days ago on Michael Francese's channel, and the guy is just... You knew he was intelligent then from the little snippets you got from the news, or you read the interviews that he's done over the years. But Bundy, wow. Between him or Berkowitz, it would have to be, because they would have you sitting there mesmerized telling the tales of what they did. Not that you're getting off on it or anything, but I'm always fascinated by the why. Not so much what they did, but the why.
Why?
Yeah.
What drove you to this point?
Yeah.
I mean, because you get what you get when you see documentaries about guys from the past like that, and documentaries back then were a little bit different of a format, and it was kind of always one way.
It was a lot of pictures with a lot of tape recordings playing.
Yeah.
Another one I'll add to that list. Again, because of his eloquence and the story behind it. Because you just don't wake up one morning and go, you know what? I think I'm going to fake having a broken arm and kill me a bunch of bitches. Another one that fascinates me is Dennis Rader, BTK.
Yeah, I would like to talk to him. You know what? One would be kind of a waste of time, but it would be interesting to do is Ed Gein.
Oh my God.
You wouldn't get much out of him.
No, you wouldn't. You'd ask him about the killings, he'd give you a recipe for soup.
Yes.
I mean,
or like spinach dip. Like the
Right.
fuck.
We tried to give him a psychological profile. What happened? He gave us a recipe for spinach dip.
For chicken noodle soup and fucking pot roast.
Wasn't that was a line from one of the Hannibal movies, right?
I think so.
Yeah, we tried to give him a psychological profile. What happened? He gave us a recipe for spinach dip.
I think that was either Silence of the Lambs or Red Dragon. Or something.
But yeah, we tried.
You got them French fry taters.
Now, if Carl Childers were real, I would sit with him for hours, and I'd bring the French fried potatoes.
I could listen to Billy Bob Thornton do that voice forever, and it would never get old. It would always be funny to me.
I like the way you talk.
Billy Bob Thornton, have you guys been watching Landman?
No, I want to start watching it. I hear it's amazing.
That shit.
I hear it's amazing.
Watch it.
One more shit to add to my list. I will watch it.
I like Billy Bob Thornton. I think he's
and we've got 4
I think he's
episodes.
great.
They aired 2. They just released another 2, so I got to watch those
right.
2. But yeah.
And what platform is this on?
Paramount.
It's on Paramount, I believe, and there's
it is.
else I can watch.
Okay. Well, because it was Thanksgiving.
If my Paramount is through them too.
Because it was Thanksgiving week, and now that I work at night, I had to do my Godfather marathon during the day this week because I wasn't going to put on TCM and try to fall asleep watching The Godfather. That's bad for business because you'll stay awake for the whole fucking movie.
Yeah.
I watched the good 2. I did watch the re-edited Coda, not Godfather 3, but the re-edited so the story makes sense 3rd film.
You know what? After watching that one, I kind of appreciate that movie more.
Well, after they re-edit it and put it to where it makes sense.
Have you ever seen The Godfather that they used to show on television around this time of year in chronological order?
1, 2, and 3.
No. The events that happened in 2 early on are the beginning of the movie.
No, I have not.
Interesting watch. It's kind of like that. It's like watching that. You know that movie Memento with Guy Pearce, where he remembers and forgets shit all the time. It's like watching that in proper order. Totally different, but it's still good. and that's how I feel. I think it was called The Godfather Saga, and it might be on YouTube.
Okay, I'll look it up.
I run into it occasionally. As you know, what happens is people upload it onto the internet this time of year because it's Thanksgiving.
Mhm.
It's around, and then it kind of goes away. But it was an interesting watch, and but different. But I think it's good. It was good.
Yeah, I mean the second one, I always liked the way they interspersed. You know how he met Clemenza and Tessio, how they came across Hyman Roth way back when.
Right.
I always thought Michael knew from the beginning that Roth was looking for him and then I realized, I don't know how many years ago it was, the big tell was, and that's when you at home get it, because you thought Michael was just speculating, where Hyman Roth goes into that speech where I had a friend. He was a couple years older than me, and we did this, and he built Vegas, and his name was Mo Green. And I never asked who gave the order, because this is the business we chose. And I'm like, motherfucker, he's coming after Michael because Michael ordered the murder of Mo Green.
Right.
And if I've ruined that movie for you, fuck you. It's been 30 years. You should have seen that movie by now.
No, and I got that when I was about 17 or 18.
I was going to say, it's about the same time. I might have been 18 to 20-ish.
Yeah. Yeah.
When he gives the speech about Mo Green.
Yeah. So moments like that are a little less impactful because you didn't have the way it was presented.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just, you already know that.
Yeah. And especially in the third one, where they added in his confession, which wasn't in the original cut.
Right.
Where Michael is confessing himself. They're in Sicily. He's somewhere around Vatican City, and he's with the priest, and he actually admits that he ordered the murder of Fredo. You knew that already, but he never said it out loud.
Right.
Not once.
I think that's a little bit more impactful than not addressing it, because it shows Michael. That was his redemption moment in that story right there, because he actually showed a bit of humanity. And actually felt bad about it. But that coupled with that speech by Lee Strasberg, that you just that's, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's the most evil, and then that's the redemption.
Exactly.
I think that should have stayed as the original part of that film, Godfather 3.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And then of course
the first two movies in order.
Amazing. And the tell in the another tell in the third. Again, if I'm spoiling The Godfather for you folks, fuck it. They've been out forever. Should have seen them by now. Two of the greatest movies ever made, and the third one.
Right.
Where in the second one, Fredo takes everybody on the town, and they go to the little sex show. And the senator from Nevada asks, "Where'd you find this place, Fredo?" Now this is 10 minutes after claiming he never met the guy. He goes, "Yeah, Johnny Ola told me about this place. You know, Roth would never come here, but Johnny, he can sniff this place out." So not only do you claim not to know Roth or Johnny Ola, you just blew your cover with a drink in your hand at the sex show, and Michael's like, "All right, nigga, I got you now."
Yeah.
And it was all because he got passed over. Big deal. I could do things, Mikey. Say it.
I'm smart.
I'm smart.
I can do things. That
my boy. Look what they did to my
my
boy.
boy. That there, I'm smart. I can do stuff. Megan and I say that to each other all the fucking time when we do something stupid, or when the other one does something stupid. It's like the most quoted movie line in my house. I'm smart. I'll just say that. I'm smart.
I can do things, Mikey. I'm smart.
Megan. I'm smart, Megan.
Not me. My daughter knows if we're getting ready to go, if we're leaving someplace, and I'll just look at her and be like, "Leave the gun.
Yeah.
Take the cannoli.
Leave the gun, take the cannoli."
That's
Between the two, do you like one over the other? Like, what's the best Godfather movie? Where do you rank 2 and 1?
Oh, that's tough,
Like,
because
one is the number one.
yeah, I'm gonna go with that because it sets the table for everything that comes
There is
after
no
it.
2 and 3 without 1.
Yeah.
Right.
I think 2 if it were a separate film called anything other than Godfather 2 could overtake the first one, but because it's Godfather 2, it has to stand in its rightful place one step behind The Godfather.
See, I'm the opposite. If I'm going to watch a Godfather movie, I always watch 2. I don't know why. I don't understand it, but maybe it's because I had seen the first Godfather movie so many times. By the time I saw the second one, I was over it. But my father would put The Godfather on a Sunday afternoon and on a rainy day every Sunday. If we were and whether it's in the living room or in his computer room or out in the den, if he's bored, he's going to watch The Godfather.
That's one of my favorite movies of all time. It's in my top 5 list. I can't even do that.
Right.
Same with Scarface or Goodfellas.
Now, they are in my top 5 as well. It's, I'll give you 3 of the 5 is Godfather 1, Godfather 2, and Goodfellas.
Same.
If you're going to rank crime movies or mafia movies. Casino is 4th.
Nice.
And the original Ocean's 11 is 5.
Okay. I would remove, if this were my list, I would take out Ocean's 11. I would throw in A Bronx Tale.
Yeah, I often forget about that movie. I like it. I like Chaz Palminteri. I think he's a fantastic actor.
That one scene where he's telling her, he's telling Calogero, this could be one of the good ones. You got to do this. You got to do this. Here's what you now. 2 minutes after he says all this beautiful stuff, here's what you're going to do. You're going to take my car. You're going to lock both doors. You're going to bring her to the door. You unlock the door. You open the door for her. You place her in the car. You shut the door. Walk around the back and look through the window. If she doesn't reach over and unlock that door, you dump the broad immediately. He's like, what about all that stuff you just said? No, the door test. That's what's important. It's like, you just got through selling me on this woman who I'm going on my first date with, and then you say, if she don't reach over, dump her. That's it.
And so, because of the podcast on YouTube, Not Today, Pal, with Robert Eiler and Jamie Lynn Sigler.
Okay.
And that, and I've been rewatching the original, the original run of The Sopranos.
Nice.
I forgot about a lot of the episodes. It's been years since I watched the entire series. It's been quite a few years, like 10 plus. So I'm like,
gotcha.
I'll start all over again, and it makes me appreciate actually more than the fact that we lost Michael Gandolfini when we did. That guy, watching an interview with him and watching him become Tony Soprano, he absolutely turned into a completely different person. You believe that Tony Soprano could be a real person.
Oh yeah, his range as an actor was phenomenal because he did The Sopranos, but you see him in other things, and you expect Tony Soprano to come out, and you just get
it's just this very soft-spoken, gentle, kind man.
Okay, to the same point, but it's going to sound, a little come see, come saw. I'll get the how I know you're gay from everybody except Herm. I grew up seeing Joseph Mascalo as Stefano De Mira. That's how I knew Joe Mascalo. And then somewhere around 1990, 1991, Bill Bixby got a wild hair across his ass and decided to make another Hulk movie for NBC. And Joe Mascalo played the police chief, Tendelli. And hey, how you doing? I got this tip. And I'm like, no, but you get so enraptured in one character, much like James Gandolfini, Joe Mascalo. You could put Estelle Getty on that list. You watched her all those years as this little super old lady, and then you realize she's younger than the rest of the cast, and you see her in a movie, and she's just, there she is.
And like her range was amazing. I mean, you go back and you're like, oh yeah, I remember her in this movie now.
Yep.
You're I forgot he was in that movie.
You're a big Jaws fan. Joe Mascalo was in Jaws.
Yeah, he played the
Yeah, he was the town council.
Yes.
Leader,
yes.
the fuck it was.
Yes.
And again, because you're so, I didn't see Jaws until later.
That's not
in my
how Stefano talks.
Exactly. I didn't see Jaws until I was in my 20s. I don't know why. I don't know. I didn't avoid it for any reason. But the first
Why
time
the
I
fuck
saw it,
is
it's like,
Stefano talking like that?
where's his Italian accent? Like, you are going to kill the shark because I am Stefano. It wasn't there. I am going to kill John Black.
Yeah, that's Jaws is my 4th of July holiday film.
Got you.
Halloween is the first original John Carpenter's Halloween is my Halloween holiday movie.
Should be Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park, but that's okay.
Yeah, fuck you. And my Christmas, my newer Christmas film is Love Actually.
Oh, mine's Just Friends.
I love that movie too.
Fantastic fucking film.
That movie got shit on really, really hardcore when it first came out, and I have never seen Ryan Reynolds in anything, and I didn't like him. The movie may have been
good point.
The movie may have been trash overall, but he did one with Sandra Bullock, and Betty White was in it.
The Proposal.
Yes, The Proposal. The movie overall sucked, but he was brilliant in it.
Oh yeah, so was she. They had such great chemistry,
I thought
and
so.
Betty
I thought
White
so.
too. But Craig T. Nelson and Mary Steenburgen ruined that film.
Yeah, and that's sad to say because they're great actors.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, it's just a director who doesn't know how to direct those actors. You know,
We'll have to have a movie episode coming up. You go to Christmases, maybe some out of the way. Well, Lynch has about 1 million B films, that rubber alligator movies that he watches on the regular.
I like A Christmas Story for Christmas.
Yeah,
That's-
my
that
old
was-
go to was Christmas Vacation until it became everybody's go to. Then I had to step away.
Yeah, so I saw Christmas Vacation with my mother the day it came out, and I had never laughed so hard or seen my mother laugh so hard in her life. I think that's the best vacation movie out of all of them. 2 sucked. I was not a fan of 2.
Yeah,
And it's not because they changed kids. It just wasn't a very movie.
I always screw up the line because I know the premise of the lines. I just never know whose name goes first. Why is the floor wet, Todd? Is it Todd? Is that it's Todd and Margot? But who goes first in that exchange?
Todd.
Why is the floor wet, Todd? I don't know, Margot. He's just fucking.
Yeah, I think Christmas Vacation is the best vacation movie. But again, there would be no Christmas Vacation without the original Vacation.
Correct, and God bless Christy Brinkley.
And overall, the first one was good, but it was a completely different style of movie than Christmas Vacation was. Christmas Vacation was more slapstick and just very well written.
I'm gonna get canceled as we close this show out. I even liked Vegas Vacation.
I just didn't like the Vegas Vacation.
Maybe it was because
That's really when Chevy Chase lost his shit, his marbles, and just didn't give a fuck about anything.
I had seen the other two. I really wasn't. I really wasn't a fan of slapstick comedy, but Vegas Vacation really brought me to the point where I had to look back at some of these slapstick films. I was in my 20s, so I hadn't seen 1941. I hadn't seen Animal House. I hadn't seen some of the film. True disclosure, when I was working at Blockbuster, that was when Vegas Vacation really took me into that rabbit hole to see these old school. I call them slapstick comedies, but they're not. They're not the Three Stooges, but they were made in the vein that you're not supposed to take anything you're about to see seriously.
Yeah, physical comedy.
Yeah, the John Ritter style, if you will.
Right.
So yeah, that opened my eyes to.
I'm like,
the closest thing to that I'd ever seen before was DC Cab.
Dude, I went to the drive-in to see Animal House with my parents.
Oh my god!
I was like 5 when that movie came out.
You were ruined for life.
My dad was like, "Honey, he's okay. He'll be okay if he sees a set of boobies. He already hears the word fuck 1 million times out of my mouth. I think we've already ruined him."
Hey, check it out. What am I?
A zit.
I'm a zit. All right. we'll have to drum up a movie episode. We got Christmas coming up. My second favorite holiday is coming up. First one just went by. Thanksgiving, Fat Boy Christmas. Hope everybody had a fantastic holiday. Hope you ate to
did.
your heart's content. Hope Herm
did.
had enough beefaroni and green cards to satisfy him for the rest of the week. And Marsh is still alive somewhere. My next favorite holiday is Sunday. I don't require gifts. It's my birthday. All I care about is each and every one of you out there just sends me a text or a little Facebook message. That warms my heart, although I never turn down a good gift. I am a size brake pads for a 2011 VW Jetta with a 2.5 liter engine. They're going. I got 2 months to fix these motherfuckers. Still got enough life on them, but again, I kid. You guys have been great out there in La La Land. No comments today. I'm kind of upset.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Nothing.
Yeah, all our usual suspects fell asleep. Well, next week we'll come up with something. We'll have a good time. We'll have fun. We gotta stop doing this heavy shit, man. Oh,
Yeah, sometimes.
It's not really that heavy.
it's Jon Benet, Hunter Biden. Once we got into talking about films, we were happy and jovial, and Lynch was rubbing his nipples, and we were having a great time.
Oh, you could see that?
I could.
that's
Stop
fair.
it. We'll see you next week.
I don't have B cups anymore.
Oh
They
my
shrunk.
God. See you next week, you filthy bastards.
Peace. There it is.
Judgment falls upon you at first light. I'm the hand of God. I'm the dark Messiah. I'm the vengeful one. In the blackest moments of a dying world, what have you become?
Tune into the Speedway review tonight at 8 o'clock. We're going to make you an offer you can't refuse.
Heard.
Anal sex with a cannoli.
Lynch, don't go anywhere yet.
All right.
We are out of here. Lynch, stay